Labor Day, historically the home stretch for presidential campaigns. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump kicking it into high gear. We have got the very latest from the campaign trail. And also, we have got Westchester County Executive Rob Astorino's video deposition in the housing discrimination case that is now going on 7 years. We're the first ones to get our hands on it. We'll play some of it for you. Then we'll get reaction from Astorino's Democratic opponent in the next election, County Legislator Ken Jenkins. And Hermine is hammering the South as we speak. But will it wash out the holiday weekend up here? Well, meteorologist Joe Chaffee will join us as he's tracking the storm. Evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you for spending part of your Friday with us. As we head into the holiday weekend, there is just 66 days till the election. And Hillary Clinton, she is leading, hanging on to a lead, albeit with a 4-point national margin, that according to Real Clear Politics, and they do a polling average. But the lead is shrinking. Now, Donald Trump, he's making a push today for African-American voters. He met with black leaders in Philadelphia today, and tomorrow he will visit a black church in Detroit. And the Hillary Clinton email story certainly not going away. The FBI today releasing a report on its investigation into her private server. It didn't contain any major revelations, but it did keep the story going. And the names of the moderators for the debates have also just been released. Lester Holt of NBC News, he'll be at Hofstra on September 26th along with us. Martha Raddatz of ABC and Anderson Cooper of CNN, they'll moderate the October 9th debate at Washington University, and that's in St. Louis. Chris Wallace, he will moderate October 19th contest in Las Vegas. And Ali Katana from CBS News, she'll moderate the VP debate on October 4th, that at Longwood University in Virginia. So with that, let me bring in our panel. Richard St. Paul, he's an attorney. He's a Republican strategist. He's a former vice chair for the National Black Republican Association, and he's a few other things. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. All right, let's do a snapshot and don't do the Republican apologist stuff here. Do as much as you can, sit back 10,000 feet and look at this thing. If you're a betting man, I know where the polls are now, I know where they were before, but when you look at the swing state polls, and you know ground game still matters in 2016, you know party organization matters, you know party infrastructure, state offices, and all the other stuff matter. How worried are you, if you want Trump to win, that he's got to close a whole bunch of ground in a short amount of time because the last week doesn't favor him?
No, absolutely, and I said this before in the last show. Look, he needs to fundraise more. He's outnumbered in terms of dollars. When you look at the Clinton-Trump fundraising, you look at the ground campaign. Clinton has had a lot of people on the ground for a long time. She's been running TV ads in battleground states like Ohio for much longer than Donald Trump. He just started running some ads. So it's certainly the ground game and the money is an issue, but the election is not lost. At this point, Donald Trump could still win this election. The RNC just announced that they've hired over 240 field staff to go out in these battleground states. We're looking at Pennsylvania, Florida, Ohio, Virginia, and that's certainly going to make a difference. Donald Trump's fundraising, being on TV, that's going to make a difference. And of course, the first debate, as you just mentioned, coming up, a lot of people are going to want to hear what Donald Trump has to say. And another factor in that is that you have Johnson as a libertarian candidate who is taking some votes away from both parties, but he may also be on the stage. He's got to get that 15%. Right.
He's not there yet. He's got still some ground to cover. But one of the things that stood out to me, Dom, and I know this is more for the last very home stretch, we got 2 months plus to go, is that there are key counties, Cuyahoga County in Ohio, Dade County, Florida, a bunch of areas, where Trump doesn't even have a field office. And folks that were saying, they said, listen, polls are important and all that. But when it comes to get folks to do the early voting, to get people to come from the churches, the senior centers, and all the rest here, if you don't even have a field office, they can't remember when this didn't happen. And that was before all the advanced metrics and everything come out. How much of a disadvantage on that side is he? Yes, he's got a passionate base. I don't debate that. But at best, that's 40%. He's still got to get a bunch of other votes here to close the gap. How worried should folks be within the Trump ambit that all the stuff that's traditional to campaigns in a non-traditional year, you can't make up in 2 months?
You're right. Your assessment is 1,000% correct. Field operation is extremely important on Election Day. I cannot believe that the RNC with a shot at winning this thing would go into election day without having massive get out the vote operations, especially in those battleground states that you mentioned. Because in that one area, right now Trump has the momentum. Not a good week this week for Hillary Clinton, especially as you mentioned the FBI stuff. He's doing okay. He's cutting into her lead, but when it comes to field operation, there's no competition at all. The RNC can fix this. We'll see what they do.
Andrew, on the outreach. So Trump, as we know, early in the week, he went to the trip to Mexico, but then as we saw in Arizona, it was, as I've heard described, I think accurately, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, in that it was a totally different human being in terms of the messaging, the tone, the compassion, whatever you want to call it. He's now making outreach to African Americans. But as everybody said, the real point of the trip to Mexico was to try and convince white women here that he could be trusted. And he's getting crushed in that demo as we speak right now. Is this a good use of time? He's not going to get a lot of the black vote, and he's not going to get a lot of the Latino vote, or is that even his target audience?
I think it is a good use of his time, and I don't think it's his target audience. Look, he's losing 90% of the black vote, 90+%. He's losing 70+% of the Hispanic vote, and those numbers may actually go up. But showing the outreach shows a certain sense of compassion or a certain presidential quality, if you will, that I can be the president even for the people who don't vote for me, and that may convince some undecided, more or less mostly white voters in the middle, okay, maybe I can trust this guy. Maybe he's a little unorthodox, but he'll reach out to everybody, and he's not just going to, play to one group if elected.
We've made it clear that this is usually a key time, historically, Labor Day. People focus, the summer's end, kids go back to school, they're paying attention. Some people who are low information voters are just starting to make up their minds, even though I think in this election, by now you have to be under a rock not to have an opinion you're going to vote for. Right. But give me in the last 2 months what each of the two camps, and I'll start with you on the Trump side and you on the Hillary side, because sometimes you'll pitch for an October surprise. Sometimes it's defining your opponent. Sometimes it's an attempt to redefine yourself. If you're Trump right now, with seemingly lack of a willingness to really raise money or a ton of money that you're going to spend, how do you spend the next 2 months? And I know there's 3 debates, but what do you do? Do you talk more about her, or do you try and make yourself more presidential?
Well, here's the first thing. First thing is that Trump is speaking to what Americans are concerned about. The economy, 64% of people think that the country is headed in the wrong direction. Trump is speaking about how he's going to improve the economy, immigration, and also foreign policy as it relates to terrorism. Those are the 3 main issues on people's mind, and those are the 3 issues that people look at Trump more than they look at Hillary for guidance and leadership.
Nationally, on a poll level, his message on immigration, 2/3 to 3/4 of Americans don't agree with him. But yes, I think at least on that. On the Hillary side, there's almost too much stuff to go after Trump on in terms of his bio. But what do you think if she's seemingly not trying to redefine herself? Some people said maybe she should do press conferences. Maybe she should try and get out ahead of stuff that may be coming up in the debates. Should she do that? Or she should just try and remind everybody with hundreds of millions of dollars what kind of a guy Donald Trump has been for the first 70+ years of his life?
The problem, Richard, if she goes the press conference route, you have at least 100 reporters per event that have showed up with the sole purpose of tricking her up and getting her to make a mistake and knowing exactly how to ask the question where she's going to find herself in more trouble. She's got to do press conferences, but if I'm speaking on behalf of what should Hillary do, it's now or never that you expose Trump as a complete empty suit. You have got to go after him in ways that you haven't before, because right now this dude is coming up right over your shoulder. And you have got to prove to Americans, so when you talk about those critical and crucial independents every night, you have got to, and he's and Andrew's 1,000% correct, he could care less about the black vote. He's going to these totally staged events to send a message to white America, I'm not that bad, I'm not a racist. See, I'm with the black people that I talk about like dogs every day. See, look at me, I'm with the pastor, look at me, I'm good. I'm just being real with you right now,
I hear
Richard.
you. I got 30 seconds, Andrew. We've heard the October surprise. It may come from Julian Assange as it relates with more leaks for Hillary, not so much from the Trump campaign. Maybe they're one and the same, who knows. But my point is, if you're Hillary, Is it about the Trump bio that you're doing right now? Is it that you can't trust him with his finger on the nuclear launch codes? What are you trying to tell the American public before you even step on the hostage stage?
I think you do both. I think you attack all aspects of Trump, his policies, his history, his personality, the questions as to what he would do in a pressure situation. You try to undermine Trump as best you can and offer yourself as a competent, experienced alternative.
All right, everybody, we're going to jump to a break here. When we come back, there are new developments in a story that we've been talking for year after year after year. That's a Westchester housing discrimination case. Our Andrew Whitman, he got a hold of County Executive Rob Astorino's video deposition. We're going to play a good chunk of it for you. Then, Astorino's spokesman's going to be here to respond.